and welcome to Talking Business with Beverly. I am your host and business strategist, Beverly Walthour. And so we want to thank you, the viewers, for joining us as we support you as the entrepreneur and getting time and financial freedom in your business. And so we do this by not only addressing your business needs, but also your physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, and financial needs as well. And now join me in welcoming Lakeisha Poole to the show. Hello, Lakeisha. How are you?
Thank you for having me here.
Yay. And so you guys, I brought Lakeisha on. Lakeisha is a writer and a public relations consultant. And so she's going to speak with us all about, as entrepreneurs, being able to use your story to build your brand. But Lakeisha, before we dive into the conversation, I love to play this game with my guests where I ask them 3 random questions. So Lakeisha, are you game to play the game?
I am game.
Okay, Lakeisha, this is going to be a hard one. Lakeisha, what's your favorite sports team?
The University of Georgia, go Dogs.
Hey, okay. And Lakeisha, what's your favorite color?
Red and black.
Red and black. Duh. I wasn't thinking. Yeah.
Easy.
And then Lakeisha, what is your favorite meal to make?
Ooh, I like to make a good low country boil with shrimp and sausage and corn and potatoes, a little spice in there.
There we go.
That's my favorite.
Okay, Lakeisha, see,
Yeah.
I like it for a reason. And so Lakeisha, now let's go ahead and just dive on into the conversation. And so once again, explain to us just a little bit more, what is a public relations consultant?
Right. So, public relations is really a way that business owners and executives can get their product, their services out there in front of an audience. And there's a lot of misconceptions around what public relations is. A lot of people call it spinning, or there are actually some folks who think it's lies. But true public relations professionals have ethics. And so we're always truthful and factual, but we always find a way to just really get your brand or your message out there in a way that resonates with audiences. And so a lot of times that includes focusing on the positive aspects of your business, focusing on those areas that people care about. And so that's when you hear the word spin, it's not a matter of not telling the truth. It's about making sure that what you're saying is very strategic.
Gotcha. Okay, then that makes more sense, because I think also part of that misconception, and we're going to dive into this deeper. Sometimes when I think about public relations, I think I get that confused with publicity and, just getting out there.
Right.
Okay, so but you're going to break it all down for us. Let us know the difference.
Exactly.
So, okay.
Or just the myths out there, you know,
perfect.
because there are some myths around what we do and how we do it, and it can be a bit confusing.
Okay, so perfect. So tell us, how in the world did you get started with this?
Oh, wow. So I got started in public relations because I've always loved writing, and I've always loved storytelling. And so when I went to college and trying to decide what to study, I learned that writing was so important in public relations. And I also realized that I just had a natural ability of connecting with people. I was always the person promoting somebody else's event, or someone would come to me for recommendations. And so a lot of times you'll find that public relations professionals are those folks who, they're always onto the latest and greatest, product or service, or they're always asking you, did you hear about that? And the other thing is that we're very clued into the news. And so I've always been a news junkie as far as like watching the news and reading those headlines. And so that's where I discovered, this is the perfect career path for me, because not only does it bring together my natural skill set, but just my natural personality. And so I studied public relations in college, and my first job out of college was at a PR firm. And I've been doing it ever since. So I'm about 15 years in this business.
Wow, so she's not new to this thing. Okay.
No.
So talk to us when it comes to me being an entrepreneur. So, okay, when I come to you as an entrepreneur and I'm like, okay, Lakeisha, work your magic. Like, what do you do to support your clients? Like, how could you help me? For instance, I'm a business strategist. So how could you help me as a business strategist when it comes to public relations?
Right, and I mean, you use that word magic because I do think that sometimes people think that we're magicians. And one thing that I always talk to my clients about is the business outcome. So I want to make sure you have a solid foundation in your business, because if your product doesn't work, it doesn't matter how many press releases I put out there, how many times I post about you on social media, it's not going to get you the results that you need. And so that is always my first initial conversation with clients, is to really assess the structure of their business and to make sure that it's operationally sound. And so once we have those foundational elements and I'm like, you know, it's solid, then I will look at opportunities to enhance the visibility of those products and services. You know, I'll ask you questions, you know, what do your customers love about you? Because that's one thing that you may get the reviews and you may see the feedback, but you're not figuring out ways to repackage that in your marketing, in your public relations efforts. And so I take a look at all those different areas of your business to help you figure out how can it increase brand awareness? How can it increase my bottom line? That's the key. Because a lot of business owners, they're sitting on what I consider, you know, golden nuggets of wisdom and great customer feedback, great employee stories that they could share and get traffic to their websites and to their stores based purely on that.
That makes sense. And so you keep mentioning the word brand. So kind of talk to us, what do we mean when you say brand? What does that mean?
Right. And that's another big concept word that there's confusion about. Brand is not your logo. Your logo is a piece of your brand. Your brand is, you know, essentially the DNA of your business. And so I look at your brand as the culture. I look at how you communicate about that culture internally with your staff and employees, as well as externally with prospective customers and clients. And so your brand is the thing that ties all those different pieces together as far as your communication strategy, and making sure that when someone sees that logo, they feel something from it, you know, because it ties back to your broader mission and your broader vision for your company. And so it is not just, you know, your brochure. It's not just graphic design. There has to be some strategy behind it that, again, ties all the way back to your overall business objectives.
And that's powerful what you just said, that it's more than just the physical aspect of either my logo, my colors, and all that stuff like that.
I can't just make it pretty. It has to be
some substance behind it.
It needs to be purposeful. It needs to be purposeful. It needs to be profitable. You can't just be pretty. And that's the key when it comes to brand strategy, is that when you work with consultants that understand the science of branding, they'll make sure that it is pretty, but it makes a difference in your products and in your services.
Okay, we are going to have, because I like what you just said, she said purposeful and profitable, and you know me, I'm about making money. So, Lakeisha, we're going to actually talk more about this right after these messages. And welcome back to Talking Business with Beverly. And so before the break, we were speaking with Lakeisha Poole. She is a writer and a public relations consultant. And so you said some keywords, one keyword before we left. And so you mentioned, we were just talking about brand, and one of the misconceptions that people have when it comes to brand, they just automatically think about logo and your colors. But Lakeisha was just letting us know it's so much more to your brand than that. And so you mentioned part of what you help us do as entrepreneurs is kind of define their purpose and then the profitability of their brand. So can you speak a little bit more about that and how you support your clients in that area?
And so one of the things that I always advise people who are looking at getting public relations services is to look at how those different tactics can impact their business. For example, media relations is probably one of the more well-known tactics included under the public relations umbrella. And that is where I pitch certain publications on behalf of my clients. And say, for instance, if they have a product launch, I make sure that we get samples out to key media and some of those influencers so that they can begin to build the buzz about the product. And one way that I try to measure the effectiveness of that is, did we see a bump in sales? You know, we all have tracking mechanisms on our websites. Where is the traffic coming from? And so I'm always excited when I can show my clients that, hey, look, this publication posted about your product, and look at all of the traffic that came to your website. And you can build the back end of your website in a way that you can track those conversions. And so that's what I mean by making sure that it's purposeful and profitable, not to get too nerdy here, but you gotta look at, you have to look at the numbers, you know. You're expending a lot of time and energy in public relations tactics. You know, that's another, my keyword probably is going to be misconception. Because people often say, oh, PR is free. or social media is free. And yeah, it's true, it's not like an advertisement where you have to pay for the space, but you pay for the time and the energy. And those hours add up when it comes to tactics like media relations and social media. And so you want to make sure what you're doing is actually affecting your business in a positive way.
That makes so much sense. And so, you know, so you said you help them when it comes to that definition of what's the purpose, what's the point of what we're doing. And then once again, is it increasing our bottom line, which our bottom line are the dollars. And so we talked a little bit too about like your story. So how does storytelling come into play with all of this?
Storytelling is everything, particularly when it comes to public relations. We believe that it is critical as far as building trust among your customers, building likability. People have to like you. And you will find that customers make decisions not necessarily on facts, not necessarily on function and features. And that's what I see a lot of business owners, they like to focus on, you know, the bullet list of what this is going to do for you, but people care about how it's going to make them feel. And so one thing that I always like to ensure my clients do when it comes to storytelling is, okay, how is this story going to change what people think? How is it going to shift their perception of you? How is it going to change the way they feel about you? Is it going to make them more loyal to you? Is it going to make you seem more trustworthy? And again, how are you going to make them do something? You know, we talk about call to actions, and it is so important. You have to decide, okay, am I going to make them buy my product? Am I going to make them refer my product? Like, what am I getting them to do? And so I always like to focus on that think, feel, and do, because it's easy to remember that, you know, and so that you're not just out here putting together stories that don't have a purpose.
Oh my goodness. And so even, you know, I know you've worked with large and small companies as well. Do you notice as far as when you're working with the larger companies, and because you mentioned like the features and the benefits, and we don't really focus on the bulleted points. So do you help them to kind of define those things that they're going to put out in front of the public when it comes to their story?
Absolutely. And it all starts with the target customer. And so if you think about storytelling, I always like to approach PR that way. You know, you have main characters, and the main character in a business is your core customer. And so a lot of times we use marketing jargon like, you know, customer avatar and things of that nature. These are real people. And so for the larger brands, they invest a lot of money in figuring out those people. They want to know their shopping habits. They want to know, you know, what TV shows they're watching. They want to know all these different details, and that makes it where they can tell a story in a specific place, in a specific manner that really resonates with that customer. And the beauty of building a business in this digital age is that these tools that are available to these larger companies are available to small business owners and entrepreneurs as well.
She just let us in on the secret. So once again, some of the bigger things that they're doing because of the access that we have to technology, we can access those things too.
Exactly, it's social media, and what I actually found was sometimes it's more difficult to get traction for the larger brands on social media than it is for the smaller brands, because you have to think these are bigger name organizations and companies, and so they may have a lot of followers, and so they have to spend way more money to break through to those folks versus a small business owner who, you know, they may have a few followers. And you can't get caught up in that number. You know, if you say you have 500 followers, but 300 of them are engaged, that is an awesome ratio. If you have 500,000 followers and only 1,000 are engaged, that's a problem. And so a lot of times people get really caught up in the wrong numbers when it comes to the success of their efforts.
I just hope they heard you, because that vanity part of it, oh my God, I have X, but once again, if they're not engaged, that's the first step.
Right.
And then buying, because remember she mentioned profit. So if they're not buying, what's the point of having 500,000 people if you're not able to convert them into paying clients? I get it. So you guys pay attention to that. And so you mentioned the social media aspect of it. Can you just give us one quick tip when it comes to me as a small business owner? How can I leverage social media to my advantage when it comes to me kind of getting into the heart of my ideal client?
One tip that I like to use, you know, most people when they think about social media, they just consider it as an opportunity to blast out announcements or, you know, things that they have going on. I like to use it to collect customer intelligence. And so not only can you get access to some of this data through insights on advertising, but asking questions like, or posting an image of a potential product to see what feedback you get from that. And so don't just think of it as an announcement space, think of it as an opportunity to gain insight into your core customers.
Oh my goodness, yes, yes, and yes. So you guys, we're going to continue this conversation, but she's getting ready to give us a couple more secrets. So we are going to continue this conversation right after these messages. Hello and welcome back to Talking Business with Beverly. So before the break, Lakeisha was dropping just a little nugget on us about how we can leverage social media as a small business owner to glean information from our ideal clients. So she gave us a nice little tip there. And so Lakeisha, you mentioned this at the very beginning, but let's talk a little bit more about some of the myths or misconceptions when it comes to public relations, because, social media can be amazing, but there's some pitfalls if we're not following suit, and the same thing when it comes to public relations. So what are some of those other misconceptions that people have when it comes to public relations?
Well, I think that people think it's a magic bullet. Again, I referenced this earlier because if you don't have some of the structural things in place in your business, you can build up an amazing tribe on social media. But if you don't have customer service representatives, if you don't have the staff and the team to monitor and to respond to questions and challenges that your customers have, it creates chaos and it actually creates a crisis, which is another aspect of public relations that you do not want to have to hire me for. And so I think that you have to have like a crystal clear idea about what you want to achieve when you decide to engage a public relations professional, or when you decide to do it on your own. You need to know that this is what I want to get out of it. A lot of times people come to us with 5 or 6 different big objectives, and we're like, okay, let's focus on one thing and get it right and get it a well-oiled machine, and then we can move on to that next. Because when you try to do all those varying things at one time, again, it just creates a lot of chaos. And the other thing is most people focus on the external aspects of public relations. Public relations also includes employee communications, and I always tell people that your greatest brand ambassadors are your employees and your staff. And so you want to make sure that you have given them clear communications about your business. They need to know your brand story. Just because you hired them and they did a little company research, they need to know all of that information so that they can share it with their family, their friends, or if someone comes up to them and they ask them, well, where do you work? You want to make sure that they have a positive brand story that they can share with people.
Okay, perfect. And so are there certain elements that we want to make sure that are included in our brand story? Like, is there a framework or anything that you use to kind of make sure that we include those key points?
Yes. I always like to encourage people to have an origin story.
Okay.
And so this is, how you got started.
Okay.
But here's the other thing. A lot of times people include a little bit too much information because, your business may start in 2012 and evolve into something different in 2015. And so you definitely want to work with someone or make sure that you have the right language to create a concise story that someone can tell over and over and over again. Something that your staff can memorize and, feel comfortable sharing with others. And so you want to make sure you nail down that origin story so that people know, like, how did I get started? And I would say as part of that origin story, you want to create empathy, because most entrepreneurs, they start businesses based on problems that they were trying to solve. And so now they're solving an issue that their customers are facing. And so you want to make sure that when you tell that story, you're like, I understand where you're coming from. I was where you were at one point in time. Look at, what I've developed to help me and to help you. And so don't just make it a list of facts or dates or anything like that. You want to make it a real, true story where you are engaging the emotions of the customer.
I love that. And so, because I see that a lot of times when I'm looking at stuff, I'm like, what? but being able to
Because it doesn't matter to you.
yeah, exactly. Because you go, yeah, we're selfish. I'm like, I don't care. But yeah, but when I now make that human connection from one human to the other. Okay, so you mentioned origin stories. Is there anything else that we want to make sure that we include when it comes to our brand story?
So if you have specific products, a lot of times those products have individual stories as well. And so I'll be honest, I think everything has a story. I mean, seriously, every aspect of your marketing, your PR, your communications, approach it like storytelling. So when you're, posting something on social media, what type of language are you using that resonates with your customer? So for instance, there's a big difference between saying support this product versus buy this product. That one word changes something on the inside of the customer that they're like, oh, I'm not just spending my money, I'm investing in something that matters to me. And so that's why I say storytelling really for me, it's everything. It's everything.
And see, we need people like Lakeisha because I'm like, go buy it. Look, what you mean? So go buy it. Go buy it. So I love that. So the origin of just yourself as the person behind the company,
right,
and then that product side of it as well.
Yes.
And so for you, Lakeisha, what do you feel like makes you different? Because there are other public relations consultants out there. What makes you different from those others?
I would say the key thing that makes me different is the fact that I am an author as well. And so I write fiction. And it is amazing how I'm able to bring in my fiction ability with shaping the stories of entrepreneurs and business owners, because if you think about fiction writing or a really good book, it keeps you in suspense. It keeps you hanging on. And so I'm able to craft stories that people want to read. We have so much content out there, there's so much noise. And so by using some of those tactics that I would use for a fictional book and the strategies that I develop for clients, I'm able to cut through the noise because I know how to get people's emotions going based on a story that I've written in the past or something like that. And so that's probably the key differentiating factor about me as a PR consultant, is my ability to weave those stories.
So wait a minute, so they don't all have that background. Okay, well she doesn't. I just assume, but you know what they say about assuming. And so, when they come to you though, Lakeisha, like what's usually that deciding factor for them to say, you know what, because maybe they were doing it themselves and they're like, what's going on with them where they're usually like, hey, I need some more support with this thing?
Well, I think a lot of times business owners, they don't feel like someone understands them or their story. And so I'm a great listener, and because I have so much experience in this, a lot of times when they come to me, I'm like, oh, okay, I know exactly where you're struggling with. I know exactly what's the stumbling block here. And so just having that ability to see the problem and to see them, because these business owners, they're focused on customers. And they're like, I'm just trying to get a customer. They're not necessarily focused on them. And so a lot of times my consulting sessions turn into like therapy sessions where I see them
on the couch. Hey, you got some time. You got some time.
Well, because I'm an outside perspective. And so you can accomplish all these great things and you've met all these milestones and you have no idea about just how wonderful you are as an executive. And so a lot of times when I'm building out bios or press releases and content like that, I'm able to pull out all of that, awesomeness that you are overlooking and help put you on display.
I love that. And so, Keisha, believe it or not, we're out of time. And so, yeah, she has been absolutely amazing. And so, Lakeisha, let my viewers know, how they can find out more information about you. So your website, your email, your social media.
Absolutely. You can find out more about me at www.lakeishapoole.com, and that is LakeishaPoole.com. And that's where you can contact me and find out more about my services.
Awesome. Lakeisha, thank you so much for joining us. I'm taking little mental notes of this right here because there's some stuff I need to implement. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
And we also want to thank you, the viewers, as well, for tuning in. And remember, as entrepreneurs, make sure that you are addressing your business, physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual needs as well. Until next time, take care.